This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmur's Day, December 25th, 2023. Merry Christmas, everyone. On the show today, news, surveys, and listener questions. Then in our main segment, Jim tells us about the time Disney wanted to design a ride based on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that your oven, microwave, and blender all have see-through windows, which makes you wonder what secrets your dishwasher is keeping. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Len, the dishwasher, the new battlefield of the American marriage.
Look, I know where you're going with this, right? Go ahead.
All right, as a man, I just want credit for loading and then unloading the dishwasher. I mean, Nancy, like many women, insists that there is, in fact, a proper way that dishes should be loaded into the dishwasher. I mean, I agree in principle. The proper way that dishes should be loaded into the dishwasher is inside the dishwasher, and you should put in soap. But beyond that, I don't think as males, we need advanced instruction when it comes to dishwasher operations. And Len, for this specific moment, I have modified Jack Nicholson's speech from A Few Good Men. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to the woman who eats off of the clean plates and then ask questions in the manner I provide them. I would rather she just say thank you and then be on her way. Now, if you'll excuse me, Len, I have to go turn the couch into a bed because I'll be sleeping there for the next few days.
Exactly. So any couch can be a sleeper sofa.
There we go.
If you make your spouse wrong, I'm mad enough. Yeah. The thing that I like is this idea that in pre-marriage counseling, they don't explain to you that in every relationship there are two people. One person who stacks the dishwasher with the precision of a Scandinavian architect, and the other one who stacks the dishwasher like a raccoon on meth. And they marry each other.
All right,
I say that as the man who is not allowed to sort clothes for laundry. Okay, so I know my limitations.
Okay, I get that, and yes, the raccoon on meth is a very apt description. So that. But again, I load them and I take them out. Shouldn't that be enough?
You know what? That counts. That counts. That's what do you want exactly? All right, Jim. Let's do a quick shout out to our Patreon subscribers. Thanks to new subscribers Review Time Dom, Keith Schrod, Deal Ron, and our friend Andrew Justvig, and longtime subscribers JP Lamont, Elizabeth Ferliger, Paul Novak, and Brenda Rothstein. Jim, these are the Hollywood Studios cast members searching for ancient relics just outside of the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. They say the "Do Not Pull Rope" sign is a gag that started with college program kids one year. Mm-hmm. And so did the "Beware of Face-Melting Antiquity" sign, but we'll save that for another story. True story.
Okay. Oof. All right.
All right, quick reminder to folks, we're moving the show to Patreon. This is our last show posted to Bandcamp. So starting with the January 1st episode, we'll all be on Patreon. Sign up at patreon.com/JimHillMedia. And don't forget to close down your Bandcamp subscription after that. Mm-hmm. On to the news. The news is sponsored by touringplans.com. Touring Plans helps you save time and money at theme parks like Walt Disney World. Check us out at touringplans.com. All right, Jim, a couple of interesting news announcements. First one, Disney announced the return of Hollywood Studios' Voyage of the Little Mermaid attraction for fall of 2024. All right. So the attraction originally opened in 1992, closed in 2020 with the pandemic, never reopened. Around 500 seats, I think, for the show.
Sounds about right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're expecting any major theater renovations or anything like that. So I think a lot of the time between now and the opening is probably going to be spent bringing all the infrastructure up to current building codes. Mm-hmm. And I haven't heard anything about the show length, but I know, Jim, that the previous show was around like 14 or 15 minutes in length, which allowed them to get a bunch of them through in a day, which is important for a park that needs capacity.
Absolutely.
Like the studios. What are you thinking? I think about the same time.
Oh, God, yeah. One thing I have heard from folks in entertainment is this will basically hew to the 1989 film. That.
Oh, not the remake.
Not the remake.
Interesting.
And what was interesting, during the pandemic, there was much talk of, if the Rob Marshall movie was as successful as the company was hoping, that they would reimagine, this attraction, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, to, go closer to that film. And a lot of reasons didn't do the numbers that Disney had expected. And so this is going back to the original. So, just so folks know that, going in.
It's the most popular version, so that kind of makes sense.
There you go. So
fair enough. All right, so fall of 2024. And also, Jim, word on the street is that we might hear one more announcement soon. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, speaking of announcements, Universal has apparently bought several hundred acres of land in Bedford, England, about 45 minutes north of London, for a new regional theme park. Now, Universal hasn't said anything beyond the fact that they've bought the land. But what are you hearing?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I first heard about this the week you and I were in town for the Ginger Snap Challenge. That that this was supposedly going down. And but again, the problem with stories like this is, somebody tells you something and says, don't talk about it. So you had to sit on it. But what's interesting is that, Universal did make a run at doing a park in the UK back in, this would have been right after Florida opened in the 1990s. And
really? I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have eyed this part of the world before, and in fact, what was interesting is there had been bubbling up earlier, suggestions that Universal was going to Europe, but the smart money was on them going to Spain, revisiting the park that they had there at one time. And no, it's this is, well, as you're about to talk about, this is an interesting choice, for a site.
It's for a couple of reasons. So one thing is that Bedford, England, is about 45 minutes north of London. So it's served by major train service, and it's also within 2 hours of travel of half of the United Kingdom's population, which is big when you're trying to draw people in. And a 2-hour drive actually for the UK is a fairly lengthy drive. Not so in the United States. The thing that interested me was, if you look at the weather for it, you think of England as being cold and rainy, but that might have been true in the past. But think about it 50 years from now, right, or 30 years from now. Right now, it's got a relatively temperate climate around Bedford. Highs are in the mid 70s, maybe the low 70s, and the lows 6 months out of the year are in the 40s. So if you think about 30 years from now and what's going to happen with global warming, it's probably a better bet than Spain or Paris.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Though I that said, I am hearing that a good portion of this park will be indoors.
Right. So that's the other thing. The weird thing about Bedford's weather is it's more like Florida in terms of consistent rainfall. It gets around 2 inches of rain per month, like between 1.5 and 2.25 inches per month, which is fairly consistent. So yeah, indoor attractions. Also, that'll help them, when the 6 months out of the year when the lows are below 40 Fahrenheit. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, they're planning for it.
Okay. And one other aspect of planning that I just want to put out there, this is supposed to be the most Disney-like of the Universal parks. And when I say that, you know how Universal in the past had a habit of, it would license The Simpsons, it would license Harry Potter, toward that end. This is... this is a park that is being produced under Mark Woodbury's, guidance. And, he was the head of Universal Creative and then became, head of Universal Parks and Experiences. And Mark really believes in the fact, he's like, look, we have IP that people
we have good
love.
franchises. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We've got Despicable Me, we've got Minions, we've got Trolls, we've got we don't have to license other people's stuff anymore. So just people should be ready for that. This is going to be the most universal of the Universal parks.
Do you have a time frame for when this development's going to begin or when it's going to open? I mean, knowing how fast Universal moves, it'll probably be a week from Thursday when the first hotel is up.
Well, again, what's kind of interesting about this is, remember, Universal hasn't officially announced it yet. In fact,
Right.
Our good friend Alicia Stella, once again broke the news and found the permits and they had copyrighted various names and that sort of thing. So they're still out from their official announcement.
Right.
I'm hearing 26, 27 at the earliest.
Yeah,
so.
I would think 26 or 27. Yeah, the one thing that we had heard, and credit to Alicia for finding this, was that the deal had been in the works for some time.
Oh, yeah.
But that the current UK government had wanted to make the announcement closer to the general election, which I believe has to happen by early 2025.
Yeah. There are several.
There's some national politics that's coming into the Universal theme park world.
There we go. There are multiple agendas being serviced here. So, but yeah,
looking forward to that. Hey, you know what? And it's a road trip for us. So that'll be fun.
There we go. So
awesome. All right, one more bit of news. This one was a mild surprise going back to the studios. Rock and Roller Coaster is going to have its second lengthy refurbishment in 2 years. Starting in 2024. It begins January 8th, and Disney doesn't even have a definitive reopening date, only says summer. And the reason that's interesting is that it was closed for 3 months this year, February 23rd to May 25th, to resolve some issues with downtime that apparently didn't work because the ride is still averaging almost 2 hours of downtime per day.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a lot of downtime for a ride. Our friend Jim Scholl designed Rock and Roller Coaster. Maybe we should have him on to talk about this when it happens.
Yeah. I think that would be an interesting way to go here. What's kind of intriguing at Disneyland, for a time, this was kind of the pattern with the Matterhorn, wasn't it? I mean, it would be down for. It would run for 9 months and then be down for 3 months for repairs. But these two, lengthy, downs back to back, that's unusual.
I mean, Rock and Roller Coaster right now seems to have the same sort of recovery needs that I do after I go for a jog, where I'll go for a run on a Monday, and by Friday I'm okay again, maybe. And by Friday, I mean Friday, in 6 months, I'll be fine.
Theme park rides need naps too. Okay, I'm just saying. I
mean, the bigger thing that I think that we all have to look at here is when Rock and Roller Coaster goes down, and I know it's not super reliable right now, but there aren't that many attractions in Hollywood Studios, and not very many of them are reliable to begin with. So taking Rock and Roller Coaster offline is going to put additional stress not only on the attractions that are left, but also on Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane.
Oh, no doubt. And
that's going to be the big thing to watch there. Yeah.
I also wonder what the impact will be on Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy, because face it, a lot of people discover that when they're back there. There's another ride back here, and if Rock and Roller Coaster is down for 6 months. I'd be fascinated to see, what happens attendance-wise there for Racing Academy.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of spontaneous dance parties. No, I mean, it's probably true. They need something to bring people back into that part of the park, right? And you think about, Disney's got food carts back there. They've got a ton of stuff. I mean, there's some revenue that'll be lost. Right? So we'll see. But hopefully they get it fixed this time.
Here's hoping.
All right, on to surveys. Ed and Erica sent in a Disney World survey that asked some really detailed questions we haven't seen before. And Jim, the questions are on how much of the total vacation budget Disney got. So it's a super specific question, and it says, approximately how much did you and your travel party spend in total in U.S. dollars on your recent trip? And so you give a total amount, and then it asks you, of that amount that you spent, how much did Disney get? And how much did everything else in Central Florida get?
Wow.
Yeah. I think this is interesting for a number of reasons. The first is that it's Disney trying to figure out how much more of the pie is left after they take their slice. And the second thing is, of the money that's left, where is it going? Because that would tell Disney who their competitors are, right?
Just the fact that they're asking this question now, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Also, super impressed with Ed and Erica for having a detailed budget about what they spent. That's it was really good. Because the second question after this is this. You indicated that you spent a total of X dollars on your recent visit to Walt Disney World. Would like to know how much you spent on each of the individual elements of that visit. So it breaks it down into things like accommodations, tickets, parking, food and bev, merch, and so on. And the reason why I think this is interesting is they include lines for Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane. And I think what they're going to be able to do here is figure out if that money that they're spending on Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane is incremental spend or if it's taking the place of something else. And here's why I think that's the reason for this. We're doing sort of at Touring Plans, we're doing sort of our year-end wrap-up on all of the the data that we collected for the year. And one of the interesting things that we saw is that the number of guests who are using park hoppers has decreased since 2019. And I'm wondering if the additional cost of the park hopping is going towards things like Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane, where it's not incremental spend. It's simply a swap of one thing for another with the same money.
I think you're onto
right,
something
yeah.
there. I also think the secondary financial commitment to an individual theme park for the day when you look at the cost of Genie Plus or Lightning Lanes, it's just sort of like we're here. We've committed to being here. So let's go buy a $30 popcorn bucket. So
I was talking to someone yesterday, and I mentioned that and they were asking about next week or this week, Christmas week at Walt Disney World, how much Genie Plus was going to be, and I was like, well, it's a family. You have 4 people in your family. Expect to be about $150 per day, tax included. So $35 a day with tax per person. And they disbelieved me. They did not believe me that it was going to be that much. I'm like, Thanksgiving. It was. This isn't. Not only is it not unprecedented, it's precedented in the last couple of weeks. So that's where I think that's going. So if anyone has any other ideas on how similar surveys are constructed and what they're trying to get to, let me know.
Yeah, and more to the point, anybody else gets this same survey, please pass it along. We'd love the info. So,
all right, time for 2 quick listener questions. One from Gene, who says, "I'm really enjoying the new shows on Patreon with Jim Schull." Oh, thank you, Gene. Are there any rumors concerning the return of Tables in Wonderland? It seems like the annual passholder crowd would appreciate its return now that the Disney dining plan is coming back. I'm not a huge fan of the Disney dining plan, but I enjoyed the benefits of Tables in Wonderland. So, Jim, my sense here is, if we go back to the comments of Bob Chapek, who pointed out that people from out of town spend more than locals, it would be difficult to bring back Tables in Wonderland if that's still the philosophy of the Walt Disney Company, because locals would use restaurants more and take up more slots than out-of-towners, and the locals would be paying less because of Tables in Wonderland. So I don't know that's an incentive for Disney to bring it back. But what do you think?
The only way I see Disney revisiting this idea of the Tables in Wonderland thing, especially with the accent on locals, is a truly specialized program, one that would only be focused on Disney Springs.
Oh, interesting idea. Yeah.
Something that would give locals a discount and compel them to come to Disney Springs. But again, with an emphasis on, say, midweek versus weekend.
Yeah, what if they did that? What if it was like it was just for locals, right? So you had to be a Florida resident, let's say. Yep. Also, they target the restaurants and either the days of the week or the times of day. Like if you wanted to go, if you're local and you wanted to go to Disney Springs and go to STK for lunch and get 20% off with a Tables in Wonderland card, yeah, I'm 100% for that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea. But they don't need locals competing for 20% off discounts at Be Our Guest or whatever.
No.
But I think a targeted version of Tables in Wonderland would be really useful. Yeah, okay, good question, Gina. Let's hope that Disney hears this. Next question is from Nick, who writes in with an update on some missing dinos in Dinoland USA. And Nick says, I really enjoyed episode 456 where Jim recounted the history of Dinoland USA. I thought you might be interested to know that many of the fossils that were used in Dino Jubilee were donated to the Orlando Science Center when the attraction closed in 2001, including Stan.
No, really? Wow.
And they're still on display at the Science Center in the Dino Digs exhibit. And Nick happens to work at the Orlando Science Center, so I really appreciate it. And he actually included the verbiage from the press release that says, as part of a long-standing commitment on the part of Walt Disney World to the Orlando Science Center and its focus on making education fun, Disney's Animal Kingdom has donated an assortment of dinosaur fossils and replicas to Orlando Science Center. Guests have the opportunity to view the fossils as part of OSC's new permanent exhibit, Dino Digs, Mysteries Unearthed. 8 full dinosaurs and 12 other pieces are included in the donation. All right. How about that?
I have a special affection for the Orlando Science Center. I don't know how well you know Ernest Saves Christmas, but it's one the finale.
Jim Varney's magnum opus.
Yes, one of my more beloved films.
Yeah, you do love that film, don't you?
Well, any movie that includes Jim Varney saying the line "Nobody moves and nobody dies," it's just sort of. Which again, great
the
advice
true meaning
during.
Of Christmas.
There we go. But yeah, I have been looking for an excuse to revisit the Science Center. Now that I know Stan's there, I gotta go. All right.
So for those of you who happen to be driving to Orlando for the holidays, the Orlando Science Center is about 40 minutes north of Disney property, just off of I-4. So if you're looking for something to do on your travel day in or out of Walt Disney World, it's a super fun stop for breakfast and some dinosaurs. Yeah, definitely do that.
Cool.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim tells us about the time Disney tried to design a ride based on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. We'll be right back.
Congratulations! You made it to this side of the holiday shopping season. Mind you, this is the part where, after getting all those great gifts for your friends and family, you then take a look at your bank account and go, I really need to rebuild that sucker. Of course, one way you can get started with that project is by eliminating unnecessary expenses, like, say, those subscriptions that you may have forgotten about, streaming services that you signed up for when you only wanted to watch one specific show, or fitness programs that you really meant to use but never quite got around to. If any of that sounds familiar, well, let me tell you about Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills. And what I really love about Rocket Money is I can see all my subscriptions in one place now. And if I see something that I don't want anymore, I can cancel it with a tap. I never have to get on the phone to customer service. I used to have to deal with those guys all the time. I'd set up a subscription to a particular magazine or newspaper in order to gain access to their online archive and to do some research for a story or an article. And mind you, setting up the subscription was always quick and easy to do. But when it came time to cancel that subscription, well, that's when things suddenly got hard. The cancellation office was only open from 10 to 5 on weekdays, and the people who worked there rarely seemed to answer a phone. So I really had to work hard back then when I wanted to cancel something. But now that I've got Rocket Money, all it takes is a few quick clicks. So why not join the more than 5 million users who have saved an average of $720 a year? That's more than 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions today by going to rocketmoney.com/DisneyDish. That's rocketmoney.com/DisneyDish. One more time for those of you who are just waking up from a long winter's nap. rocketmoney.com/DisneyDish. We thank them for sponsoring today's show.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. New players, new games, New rules. Squid Game, The Challenge returns for a gripping second season. 456 contestants from all walks of life, competing in the ultimate test of strategy, alliances, and endurance. For a life-changing prize of $4.56 million. With stakes this high, why make friends when you can make millions? Watch Squid Game, The Challenge Season 2, only on Netflix November 4th.
Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with his plight?
Aha!
Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at canva.com.
And we're back. All right, Jim, I know that A Christmas Carol takes place on Christmas Eve, and technically it's Christmas Day, but, some of our listeners are getting the show a little bit early on Christmas Eve, so, let's talk about this.
Yeah, well, again, this is traditionally the time of year where A Christmas Carol, enters, our sphere of entertainment. And just want to remind you folks that novella was originally published in London back in 1843. So this year marks the 180th anniversary of its publication.
Wow.
And immediately became a holiday favorite. In fact, the very first movie version was a silent version produced here in the States in 1908 at SNA Studios in Chicago.
Isn't it wild that there were movies 115 years ago?
That there was a lot of gesturing, Len. Just
it's true. Yeah.
Sound wouldn't come in for another 20 years, so it's like
they didn't need to speak; they had faces.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Sunset Boulevard reference, folks. Give the ant credit. Okay, now for Disney fans, of course, they have a variety of Christmas carols to choose from. There's Mickey's Christmas Carol, first released to theaters 40 years ago this month, December 16th, 83. Kind of interesting fact, what's not often talked about when it comes to this animated feature is that Mickey's Christmas Carol was originally supposed to be released to theaters in 1982, same year that EPCOT Center opened. But when Don Bluth walked out the door at Disney in September 79 and took a third of the studio's animation staff with him. By the way, those are the folks who eventually made Secret of NIMH, released theatrically July of 82. Totally disrupted Disney's production pipeline, which not only delayed the release of Mickey's Christmas Carol by a full year, but had a similar impact on the very next animated feature that Disney had in the works, Fox and the Hound.
Wow.
That wound up being delayed from December of 1980 to July of the following year, 81. And then, of course, there's a CG version of A Christmas Carol that Disney released in November of 2009, directed by Robert Zemeckis and produced using performance capture. So it had Jim Carrey not only as Scrooge, but also all of the ghosts that visit that miserable miser. And worth noting here that when it came time for Disney to promote this new Christmas Carol, what they decided to do starting in May of that year, 2009, a full 6 months before this movie arrived in theater, is that Disney tricked out a train which had 4 vintage cars with exhibits that explained how this new version of Dickens' Christmas Carol was created.
I love it. That's amazing.
Well, and here's the thing, though. It's sent off on a publicity tour that lasts 24 weeks, makes 40 stops in 36 states, and to be honest, the reason they opted to go this way, Dick Cook, who was the head of Disney Studios at the time, when he started at the company in the summer of 1970, his first job was working on the steam train at Disneyland. So he was a big-time train buff. So, the notion of, hey, let's send a train off to promote Dickens' Christmas Carol, and so it was old home week for Dick. But the sad irony here is by the time the Christmas Carol train pulled into its final stop, by the way, right where you are right
Penn
now.
Station?
Grand
Penn
Central.
Station.
Yeah, there we go. Dick was actually out as the head of Disney Studios. They had let him go 6 weeks earlier. And evidently Iger and Cook didn't see eye to eye about how the studio should be run. And so anyway,
Are you going to say he was railroaded out of his job? You were going to do it. I know. I see the show notes.
Right.
Then you decided discretion is the better part of valor, and I decided, no, humor is the better part of discretion.
Okay, yeah, I know. Every so often, it's like, wow, that's not low-hanging fruit. That's fruit that's on the ground. Okay,
it's been sitting on the ground for a while.
There we go. But all right, thank you for doing the joke. Okay, anyway. Well, we're not here to talk about either of these two Disney-produced films, but rather something that the company ultimately chose not to produce, and that is a Christmas Carol ride that the Imagineers designed for the UK Pavilion at EPCOT Center.
All right, so let me pause here. I've actually never heard this story before, but I already love the idea of a permanent Christmas ride in the UK.
Well, and just to be clear, I shared it with Len because it came off of the back of an Imagine News, which was the in-house newsletter for Walt Disney Imagineering.
Is that where the concept art comes from?
There we go.
So folks listening, if you go to the show notes, we have concept art from the ride itself, which includes Santa being possessed by a Christmas tree and floating in space. It's like the Exorcist, but if Santa Claus was.
Just to be clear, what Len is describing is the Ghost of Christmas Future, all right? And it's the scene where he's showing Christmas around the world. So yes, in a very strange kind of visual concept, the Ghost of Christmas Past is at the same time a wonderful, magical Christmas tree.
And the bed is floating. There's somebody showing a look of great concern on the bed. Again, Jim, this is you kind of squint with one eye. This is concept art from The Exorcist as well.
Well, you're not wrong, but
anyway,
it's worth noting here that we have a date on this. It's 1984. More to the point, the name of the gentleman who painted this piece of concept art will be well known to Disney fans. That's Sam McKim. Who did a lot of work on many of the classic attractions for the park. But anyway, to sort of give you a sense of where this all fits in. Story starts with the opening of Walt Disney World's Second Gate, which opens October of 1982. Mm-hmm. And it's at this point that WED has already been mapping out Phase 2 for both World Showcase and Future World, and to increase the overall capacity of Epcot Center, as well as give guests a reason to return to this theme park. The plan was, prior to the 5th anniversary of Epcot's grand opening, so again, target date 87. Okay. Horizons was supposed to be open. Seas Pavilion was supposed to be open. Okay. Equatorial Africa Pavilion was supposed to be open.
We're gonna do an entire show on that.
Yeah, but also the Rhine River Ride would open at Germany. The Meet the World show would be at the Japan Pavilion, and then the English Music Hall would be open at the UK Pavilion. All right, of this list, only Horizons and Living Seas got built. Horizons, sponsored by General Electric, opens October 1st, 83, whereas Living Seas, where Disney genuinely struggled to find a sponsor for this land. Eventually, United Technologies agreed to underwrite this Future World Pavilion, but really cut down the earlier ride-through portion of the show. To get them on board.
The only reason I know of United Technologies is because they sponsored the Seas, and I don't know what they do. I don't know if if their main job is providing munitions to armies around the world. But I have a very positive view of United Technologies just because they sponsored the Seas Pavilion. No idea what they do, but
No. I was glad to see the place open, especially. When you think about how long it took the Space Pavilion or for the Health Pavilion to find sponsorship. Anyway, all of the expansion stuff that was planned for World Showcase, due to Second Gate not meeting its initial attendance projections, not to mention that the whole project went, over budget by several $100 million. A lot of the stuff puts on hold. Now,
where was the music pavilion supposed to go?
Well, now again, provided you with another piece of concept art that shows the pub right down by the water. You can see the sort of high street shopping area, and then if you look beyond that, You see, often in the distance and kind of in the dark, a couple of other buildings looming where the park space is now. This is where the English Music Hall was supposed to go. And what's interesting is Richard Beard, in his 1982 coffee table book, Disney's EPCOT, Creating the New World of Tomorrow, he described what this proposed addition to the UK was supposed to look like. And it said, on one side of the square, an area remains open. This is the future site of a show still being created by the Imagineers. In the early planning phase, there was talk of a tour presentation space here to be housed inside of an old English railroad station. This idea then metamorphed into an Elizabethan-type dinner theater, which then turned into an English music hall, and that's where it stands. If the genius can be found to successfully boulderdize the rough-and-tumble British vaudeville for a family audience. And now he makes that comment because, look, English Music Hall, which, by the way, is where Charlie Chaplin got a lot of his training. That's where Stan Laurel of Laurel and Hardy got his start as well.
I didn't know that, really?
Yep. So it was kind of bawdy. And in fact, it's Michael Crawford who runs the always excellent Progress City blog. He found what happened here is there was some miscommunication that evidently, as the story goes, there was a high muckety muck at the Mouse House who, when he was visiting San Francisco in the 1970s, happened upon an Americanized version of an English music hall show, which was very much in the style of the Golden Horseshoe at Disneyland or the Hoop-de-Doo at Walt Disney World. And so this exec goes back to the Imagineers and says, we need one of these at the English Pavilion in World Showcase. So the Imagineers, being who they are, they go off and research authentic English music hall shows, which, as I mentioned, far more body, and so when they present it to Disney upper management, they're kind of appalled because it's like, is it like there's got to be a bar inside here? Oh yeah, absolutely, and you're encouraging the audience to sing along to body songs. It's like, yeah, that's what we plan on doing. And so
they're not very Disney. You know, that's a shame because, like, if I think of English music hall, you know, the things that you want to pull from that would be variety shows, singing, dancing, but also fast-paced, short acts, which I think would fit in really well today.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned today because one of the other aspects of this music hall theater was the notion that between November and December, as they do in the UK, what they wanted to do was a Christmas pantomime. And so now what's kind of interesting about doing an English, Christmas pantomime is traditionally there's at least one role in the show that, features a cross-dresser, that they will have a guy on stage who's playing, like Cinderella's evil stepmother or that sort of thing. But it's so broad and it's so ridiculous. And if you think about what's been going on in Florida politics lately, it's like, it
might be illegal to do that, actually.
It might be. But all right. Anyway, jumping back now to fall of 82, EPCOT opens. The idea of having an authentic English music hall at the back of the UK Pavilion gets tabled. But starting in September of spring of 1983, Disney starts to get their first round of surveys in hand about what guests really think of Walt Disney World's second game.
EPCOT. Now that it just opened. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's like we don't understand what this is.
Well, more to the point, that front and center, loud and clear, is that EPCOT doesn't have nearly enough rides. So this is what the Imagineers do. They begin to develop more rides for the theme park, especially since they can't persuade any German companies to come sponsor the Rhine River ride that was going to be built in the World Showcase. So the Imagineers had this building site at the back of the UK Pavilion where the English Music Hall was supposed to be built. Could a ride be built back there? And as we mentioned, Sam McKim goes off and noodles on something he initially calls the Dickens ride. which
okay.
Which
it was the best of rides. It was the worst of rides.
There we go.
I'm writing the review right now.
Okay, that was it. Early concept was you would go past vignettes from based on Dickens' best books, Oliver Twist, Great Expectation, Tale of Two Cities. Here's the thing, Americans who would be making up the bulk of the visitors to Epcot Center, they'd recognize the titles of those books, but they wouldn't necessarily have actually read them.
But you know what, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
They could turn these into book report attractions where you just summarize the book really, really fast. Cliff notes.
Okay.
No, even faster.
Okay. Well, all right. Sam revisits the idea, version 2.0, which he works on well into 84, is based on the one Dickens stories he knows Americans are sure to know. That's A Christmas Carol. And again, as you described with the concept art, Len, McKim has a unique challenge. He has to tell the entire story of A Christmas Carol in a theme park setting. Each significant scene from that story has to be told in a single scene.
Like one room, one scene per significant event. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Fair.
And what's interesting is the footprint is basically supposed to be the same footprint as Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. In fact, what's kind of interesting is one of the effects for this attraction, instead of a horseless carriage, you were supposed to be in a ghost-powered carriage traveling through 1840s London. In fact, there would be one moment in the ride where, kind of like the hitchhiking ghost, you would be able to look to the side and see that your vehicle is actually being towed by the ghost of Christmas future.
I love it.
Yeah. So, but again, each ghost, Marley, Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas Present, Ghost of Christmas Future, would get a scene. Likewise, you'd see Scrooge's counting house, the Cratchit home, and the Scrooge reform scene. Len, this is not the Cliff Notes version of the story. It's the Post-it note version of the story.
So what? It's all right. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Anyway, Sam finishes working on the project just about the same time Michael Eisner is named as the new CEO. And to Eisner's way of thinking, an old-fashioned dark ride isn't the way to fix Epcot. A new 4D film starring Michael Jackson is. Now, speaking of Michael Jackson, in this exact same window of time, mid to late 1980s, the studio is prepping a sequel to its 1964 hit Mary Poppins, one where Michael Jackson is supposed to have starred with Julie Andrews as Bert's brother, Bart. Seriously, then. Again, you want to read any more about this version of Mary Poppins, go check out the various articles that Brian Sibley has written about this project. Anyway, jump ahead 30
Brian's
years.
Sibley.
Sibley. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, 30 years later, this is when Disney finally actually does get a Mary Poppins sequel out the door. December of 2018, 2017. Now, mind you, Julie Andrews opts out of playing that practically perfect nanny again. Emily Blunt plays the title role in this Rob Marshall movie.
That's fine.
All right. Interesting fact here. The balloon lady in the park in that movie, who's played by Dame Angela Lansbury, that role was actually written for Julie Andrews to play. The idea was that she'd make a brief cameo in the film, kind of like how Dick Van Dyke plays Mr. Dawes Jr. in the movie. And in fact, the script was deliberately sculpted in such a way that there'd be one scene in the movie where Andrews and Blunt actually appear on screen together.
Okay. That could be a really, really touching moment. Or it could be sort of like the thing that everybody focuses on. And
I'm fascinated that you picked up on that, because that's ultimately why Julie Andrews decided to opt out of it. She thought it would be unfair to Emily, that the focus would be on her on the scene rather than the new woman playing Mary Poppins. And
you know what? She's just a class act. There's nothing else to say.
Yeah. Anyway, Disney thought that Mary Poppins Returns was a sure thing, so much so that even before the sequel was released to theaters, WDI is working on an attraction for the UK pavilion for this soon-to-be-released film. And remember, Epcot, consistently the complaint with guests is Epcot needs more character-based attractions. So In this point, Cherry Tree Lane was going to be added to the back of the UK pavilion. There was going to be a meet and greet added for Mary and Jack. That's the Lin-Manuel Miranda character from Mary Poppins Returns. And then there was going to be the Dalton Bowl spinner ride. Now,
it was going to be a spinner ride. Okay, so that was the rumor that I'd heard that there was that the ride was going to be a spinner. Okay, all right.
This is where it gets interesting. It was going to be based on the Royal Dalton Music Hall scene from Mary Poppins Returns. And in fact, the irony is the song that's done during this part of the film, The Cover Is Not the Book, is just as cheeky and bawdy as what the Imagineers had wanted to do in their authentic English. Back
society comes around to say, all right, well, you know what?
Okay,
all right.
But here's the thing. All right, you would have entered 17 Cherry Tree Lane from Mary Poppins Returns, and then inside the first floor of the Banks home, they would have done that effect from the Belle meet and greet at the Magic Kingdom, where you move
the way that the a picture frame opens in the cottage at the Maurice's workshop. That's a great effect. It's a really good effect.
Well, that's the thing. That's why the Imagineers wanted to circle back on it. So that's how you would have moved into the world of the Royal Dalton Bowl. And anyway, inside this building, there was a spinner, basically the teacups. Only now instead of climbing into a teacup, you're getting into the Royal Dalton Bowl. And of course, you exit through a gift shop, full of Mary Poppins Returns merch, and find yourself back out on the street at the UK pavilion. And here's the really ironic part, Len. Royal Dalton had actually been one of Epcot's opening day sponsors.
Really?
They're the folks who ran, it had a couple names. It was the China Shop. It was also known as the Queen's Table.
They make pottery, right?
There we go.
Do they make teacups? Because that would have been perfect for the spinner.
Yeah.
Cross-branding opportunity missed.
Yeah, but anyway, so so just what was fascinating was this, in a way, would have been Epcot revisiting its own history with that shop having been there for opening day, and as Len mentioned, we will be including with the show notes, and we'll also be pushing out through social media these pieces of concept art that we found. But it would have been great, to have something back in this space at the UK pavilion. In fact, the irony is this time of year is the only time that this is used, effectively. This is part of the, how the Christmas round the world, you can visit with the various Santas. This is, this is where you get to meet Father Christmas.
It could have been a great time. And I love the idea of a year-round Christmas ride in the UK. And also, didn't the UK invent Christmas cards?
I want to say yes, and that reminds me, I have a couple to get out. So
You get about 20 minutes to go.
Okay, we need to wrap this up. Okay, there we go. Okay.
But Jim, think about this. I mean, had they gone through with the Charles Dickens Christmas Carol attraction, to get people onto the ride, they could have just had a cast member on one of the upper floors of one of the UK pavilions just open up a window every 20 minutes and yell out, "What's today, my fine fellow?" Like somebody dressed as Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, I love that.
The line would be 6 hours long to get on this ride.
I love that.
And you could have, the restaurants could serve Christmas puddings. And why are we not doing this again?
Not to belabor the obvious here, but in the coming year at Holidayland, out in the Midwest, they are opening they already have Christmas rides at that park. They are, however, opening Good Gravy, the Thanksgiving themed coaster, where you ride an oversized gravy boat. So, I think a road trip is in our future, Len.
I think so. So let's do this. When we go to London, there's a bunch of really excellent theme parks in and around London. So there's Legoland Windsor, which is a hoot. There's Thorpe, which is my one of my favorite scary parks ever, because the rides are amazing. And then there's Chessington, which is just adorable. But let's take the train ride up 45 minutes to Universal when it opens, and then let's continue on another 45 minutes north to Alton Towers, because we go past Stoke-on-Trent, which I've stopped in, and that's where Royal Doulton is as well, I think. So we can tie a bunch of things together. All right, let's do all that.
All right, sounds great. Sounds
also,
like
I know you love to drive, but when I did my month-long tour of England, I did not drive once, so it's all trains. Let's do that.
Okay. I'll tough it out. So
I love this. I love the idea of a year-round Christmas attraction in the UK Pavilion. Fantastic show. All right, good job, Jim.
Glad you liked it.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/Jim Hill Media, where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our latest show has behind-the-scenes stories, photos, and video from the building of Disney MGM Studios from Imagineer Jim Schull, who was there during the whole thing. Check it out at patreon.com/Jim Hill Media. On next week's show, Jim gives us the surprisingly deep history of Shrunken Ned's Junior Jungle Boats in Adventureland. There's lore, kids. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey, who wants to hear your fresh ideas, people, for Ceramics Paint Night at the next monthly meeting of the Fancy Gap Elementary School Booster Club. That's 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 25th, 2024, at the Fancy Gap Elementary School in beautiful downtown Fancy Gap, West Virginia. While Eric's doing that, please go on to iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.